Hello again, friends and family. It's Talking Toddlers on Tuesday with Erin Heyer from Higher Learning. And this week, I want to talk about something that pops up often. What's the difference between speech and language? Is there a difference? And why do we, even in my field, interchange those words? Speech, language, what's it all about? And does it really make a difference? Yes. There is a difference, and yes, it does make a difference because we have to understand that speech is the physical part of talking. Individual sounds that we need to coordinate with actually 26 muscles from our diaphragm up, looking at our jaw, our lips, and our tongue. And the interesting part is that the tongue is the only muscle in the body that has a point of origin, so it's attached in the back of your throat, but no point of insertion. So it has to find stability within the mouth, the oral structures, the teeth, the hard palate, the roof of the mouth, as well as the base or the floor of the mouth. And so speech is the physical part of talking. And inhalation and exhalation supports the volume and the control and allows a child to extend from single words to a long sentence, or they ramble on and tell a funny story. But speech is the physical sounds. And although there are 26 letters in our alphabet, there are actually 42 different sounds that we use to produce and speak in English. So we do look at the physical part of communication through the speech sounds. At the same time, though, speech and language are the different sides of the same coin because speech sounds are strung together to make single words, and then single words are strung together to make phrases and then sentences, and then the sentences are strung together to make conversational speech or communication, right? And so we have to build that physical ability to coordinate those individual speech sounds very, very rapidly. We're talking about milliseconds. And so this does tie into language because then language is looked at expressive language. How do I pick the words that I want to string together to make those sentences? What are my vocabulary and understanding of where the noun and the verb and the articles go together? And then the receptive language is how well do I understand your language, other people around me giving me directions or giving me feedback, or that turn taking that is infamously important with toddlers. So speech and language are different, and yet at the same time, they're so interwoven. So we, as speech pathologists, we just kind of cut it short. We can be called speech pathologists, speech language pathologists, a therapist, clinician, but we specialize in understanding how to tease those things apart and then how to also put them together. So I've always looked at my practice as kind of this 80-20. The kids that I will work with will have a pure speech issue. They might have a funny R, as we kind of say them, or they might have a lisp, or some of the early speech issues might be that they kind of overcompensate and will substitute front sounds that are made in the front of the mouth, like the T or the D, t, t, d, d, versus the back sound, like the K or the G, k, k, g, g. And so we have those very, very specific speech delays or complications that we can go in there and help the child support through oral, motor, as well as auditory. Can they hear the difference between a t, t and a k, k? And then where in the mouth placement goes. But 80% of what I have focused on for the last 3.5 decades has been language processing, has been both that expressive ability to string those sounds into words and the words into the sentences and the sentences into conversational flow, which is remarkable from birth to 3, 4, 5 years of age. and as well as the receptive language. How well do I understand? Can I follow in real time? Do I need directions repeated? Is my understanding of the nuances, the structural and grammatical nuances, and that is done so rapidly that we have to look at the auditory skills and how the brain is mapping these speech sounds in clarity. A child then can really build this huge network of both sounds and language. And so they do have to work together. And so it's important that parents, educators, that we all look at that differently and yet in this integrated fashion. So I've always said it's an 80-20, and that speech and language are two sides of the same coin. When we grow and learn and develop, nothing is done in these neat, tight little compartmental boxes. And it's all really working together to build this healthy, thriving, engaged little human being. So when a teacher might say, I don't really understand what he's saying or she's saying, they do follow directions, they seem to get along, but when he goes to talk, I just don't understand. Typically, that's more like speech sound related. Then you look at other children who might be not able to follow directions or might be uncomfortable expressing himself or herself, and that is more language based. So the first rule is always to go in and see if we can tease those apart. Yes, they can also coexist, and that's a whole different story. But I just want families and caretakers to really understand the difference between the oral motor speech sound development and the language processing. So that's your note for this Tuesday, Talking Toddlers on Tuesday with Erin Heyer, and I'll see you next week. Thanks.